I thought we might provide a few reflections about Pannavati, some personal reflections. I'll say a few words, and then Dan and Darby will come up and share their own reflections of their experience. I first met Pannavati about 15 years ago when I was on a retreat in New York, where she was one of our teachers. We were 90 people trying to learn to become Dharma leaders. And Pannavati shows up one day, and most of us had never heard of her, never seen her teach, so she was new to most of us. And as you might imagine, we were all taking copious notes in an effort to try to capture, okay, what is the essence of a good teacher here? And what we shortly realized was that it was fruitless to try to take notes when Pannavati spoke, because she's all over the map and she's so present with her teaching that all we could do was sit back and let it be absorbed, let the body absorb it. And as you may know, if you've had any experience with Pannavati, or you've looked her up online and tried to listen to a talk, her talks go for an hour plus usually, because she was not wedded to the clock. She explains this by saying she grew up in a Baptist Pentecostal background. She was a preacher before. So she said, we didn't have clocks. We just talked until we were through. So she often ran over. And my experience of her in that initial meeting was that she went well into our lunch hour and nobody left the room. And in fact, when she finally did stop speaking, about 30 of us went up and sat down on the floor on the stage with her because we wanted to hear more. That's how captivating, how powerful her teaching is. Yeah. So fast forward a few years, and the Guiding Teachers Council here at IMCC is always looking to see who we might invite as guest teachers. And Pannavati's name came up, and I invited her to come thinking, oh, we'll never get her. And she came. She showed up in Charlottesville. So we were so fortunate. I think she was here 3 or 4 times during between 2013 and 2019, I guess, before the COVID. And for those of you who were fortunate enough to join her, you know what I'm speaking about when I talk about her power. And she's so relaxed and so open and so human. I think those were the gifts we all experienced with her. So several of our Sangha members have sat on retreat with her, and 2 of them will speak to their experiences right now. So Dan or Darby, either one of you.
I need the water in case
yes, the pollen
gets me. Good evening. I need my mom. Yeah. I can't say that I knew Pannavati very well. I'm just one of countless people who were blessed to hear her teach and to experience her presence. I first heard Pannavati teach here at IMCC, and I spent about a week down at Heartwood in Hendersonville, North Carolina in 2019. When I went, I didn't know if the Venerables, Pannavati and Pannadipa, would be there even. I thought I was going to be doing a personal silent retreat, which I guess would have been possible, but I very quickly decided that in addition to meditating, I would just go with the flow there. There was just a lot going on at Heartwood, and yes, Pannavati was around. She would come into the small kitchen at mealtime and shoot the breeze with everyone. Pannavati had a great sense of humor and was a wonderful storyteller. And she was very generous with her time. She didn't know I was coming, but when I arrived, she invited me into her office for a chat about my practice and offered to guide me through a meditation session the next day in their Vajrayana hall. Was interesting, she advocated meditating with an eye mask and earplugs. Just being around Pannavati was a lesson. Some people might believe that spiritual life somehow involves like a tamping down or a smoothing out of the rough edges of the personality, especially for a monastic. Well, anyone who thinks that never met Pannavati. Pannavati had a huge personality. She's proof that you can be yourself even as you lose yourself. Of course, Pannavati was extremely learned and always seemed to have the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle-length discourses of the Buddha, close at hand, so she could quote from a sutta that was appropriate to the moment. At the same time, I remember Pannavati saying that she valued tradition, but when tradition didn't work or wasn't enough, she had to find another way. Her use of music to teach the Dharma is a great example of that. I attended the weekly Sunday morning meeting of the Heartwood Sangha. Pannavati was the music director of the choir. She had Dharma-sized a contemporary Christian worship song. And when it came to the bridge, Pannavati sang a solo. And when she did, much to my surprise, I found myself with tears streaming down my face. And I wasn't the only one. It was joyful and beautiful, but more than that, it was just inspiring to be in the presence of someone who was so clearly acting from her authentic self. Actually, I think maybe inspiring doesn't quite hit it. It's not a word that we hear around here very often, but I would say there was an element of the divine about it. One of Pannavati's essential messages was, we practice for the benefit of others. Pannavati was a wise, dynamic, and powerful woman who could have been successful at just about anything. She chose to walk the path of awakening. I believe that through the Dharma and all of her life experiences, Pannavati came to know her true spirit, her Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it. And she fully manifested it in so many loving, compassionate actions in her community and around the world. And she was a fierce, fierce person in the best possible way. You can read about the things she did. She took on the Indian caste system. She took on patriarchy in the Buddhist community and system in Thailand to ordain nuns. Really just a special, special being. I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to know Pannavati just a little bit. It's with great gratitude that I say thank you to her. Her beautiful voice has been silenced, but her indomitable spirit definitely endures.
Hi, I'm Darby. When Teresa asked me to, I don't know why you asked me, actually, except that you know that I just loved Pannavati. But when she asked me to do this, I thought, I don't know what to say. And so this person that I live with said, well, why don't you watch one of her talks and it'll come back. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So I was watching one of her talks and I was remembering that first retreat that I attended at Java that she did. And your description, Teresa, I wish I'd known, I don't know. Like what you describe is what I experienced, but I didn't know that was going to be the experience. I went in not knowing anything except, well, day-long retreat, okay. And so, like, I didn't know she talks first and then gives a meditation, and I didn't know why she wouldn't stop talking. I mean, here I was thinking it was going to be this day of silence, and that's what I was craving. And at one point, I think I turned to my friend and said, this feels like a fire hose to the face. Like, it's so much information. It just kept coming and coming, and I had all this judgment, and why isn't she doing it right? And part of it was, like, she's so wise, and everything she says is so profound and helpful. And so I was trying so hard to concentrate, to get it all, and I couldn't, and then I got more frustrated. And I don't remember why or what happened, but something shifted. Maybe when she mentioned, or somehow I knew that she had been this Baptist preacher. And I thought, this is a revival. This is like a Buddhist revival. So I just let go. I stopped trying to take it all in and remember what she was saying and hear it, and I just let it wash over me. And then I loved it. And I let go of all my uptight, white, rigid thinking about how this should be. And then when she sang, I mean, I loved the singing. And I remember leaving that retreat thinking, we need to sing more at IMCC. Because, like, when it's not just, she has a beautiful voice, as I think you'll hear, but it's so heartfelt and joyful when she sings. And I just felt that the whole day. And I just left with just this open heart and not feeling like it was a fire hose to the face, but it was really just a blast of my heart. The second time that she came, or the second time I saw her, when she came with IMCC, I don't know why, but I was invited to give the Dana talk, to talk about making donations to her. And I had all these brilliant things I was going to say, and about her and the Dana and blah. And, like, I don't know, a third away of what I was intending to say, she cut me off. She just goes, wrap it up. And it just cracked me up, because I think she just felt like this is not the best use of our time. And I just loved her even more from that. So anyway, I did write down, in watching this talk, that I was able to remember what it was like to be with her. I don't know why, these words just struck me. So I wrote them down. She said, "This is not ordinary wisdom until it's ordinary wisdom." And I just thought, that is so profound. And she just, like, says these things all the time, like so many of these things. So anyway, I am just honored that I got to hear her in the flesh, and that her, the love and the joy that she shared, I think, lives on. So.
Thank you both, Dan and Darby, for those tributes. Wonderful. So now we're going to give you a chance to experience Pannavati. Brown is going to show a film clip from, as you imagined, I had to excerpt something out of an hour-plus long talk. So you get to see her and enjoy. Sit back and enjoy.
More than able to accomplish what concerns me today. But what I like about the Dharma is that I learned that I had to be responsible for my own self. I was always wondering, why do I always need a miracle? I'm looking for a miracle. I always needed a miracle because I was always getting myself into some kind of jam. And I found out from the Dharma that I don't have to always be getting in a jam. I can learn how to handle what concerns me every day. And this takes us not only towards being able to have the right response to the vicissitudes of life, whether it's praise or blame, loss or gain, pleasure or pain, fame or shame. But it also conditions me to be able to be a presence in the world that is offering love and compassion where there is hatred. One who can give or provide the antidote. And so sometimes when your last nerve is being pushed, or when you not quite sure you're going to be able to hold it together, when your skillfulness is starting to recede to the back seat, then you can always remind yourself of this. And so it goes something like this, and when you get the hang of it, you can just join in. The reason why I like to do these little ditties is because that's how children learn. Right, in kindergarten, not saying we kindergartens, but you know what I mean. In kindergarten, they sing their little songs, they sing their ABCs, and it's just part of our culture. It's the way that we learn things. It's also part of most of the Western spiritual experience that we coded something, we imprinted it on the heart through song. And so it goes something like this. I am able, more than able, to accomplish what concerns me today. Alzheimer's. I am able, more than able, to handle anything that comes my way. I am able, more than able, to do much more than I could even dream. I'm able, I'm more than able to be just what I really want to be. So we're going to be talking about conscience. I am able, more than able, to accomplish what concerns me today. I am able, I'm more than able, to handle anything that comes my way. I am able, more than able, to be much more than I could even dream. I am able, I'm more than able to be just what I really want to be. And I'll tell you, there comes a time when you kind of need that reminder, that voice speaking back to you, that voice singing back to you, that voice reminding you of who you are, of the qualities that you possess. Sometimes the qualities are hidden behind a cloud, like the sun, but they're still there. There's this practice, the yogic practice. I mean, you could try this if you don't believe me. But we practice piercing the cloud. And so we go out on a day when, there's like clouds are passing through, like just the, but it's a sunny day, not a gray overcast day. It's a sunny day. And then there's a cloud, and we're just looking at the cloud. And we just keep looking at the cloud. But not at the cloud, we're looking at the sky behind the cloud. And before you know it, it like just parts open, just like it. Don't believe me, try it. So don't believe anything. Don't believe everything that you pick up from your external sense gates, okay? They come into those sense gates. Because sometimes what you think you heard, that wasn't actually what you heard. Sometimes what you saw wasn't actually what was happening. You just thought you saw that. And so he tells us that we have to use these faculties and these gates to make a connection with this outer world, what we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and think. He says, but don't give it more presence and more quality than it needs. And part of our coming together is to begin to relax and to set aside these faculties, because we have other faculties, but they only get activated in certain circumstances. that there's a state of mind that has to be attained before these other qualities of being, before these other faculties come into, shift into operation, or until we can recognize that they're there and they're operating. So when he talks about, Bhikkhuni talks about ordinary, run-of-the-mill, untaught, untrained people, and I was one of those, but my feelings were hurt. I came because I did not want to be ordinary. I did want to be taught. I did not want to be run-of-the-mill, and I wanted to possess the sublime qualities of those that I admired. I was talking last night. Everybody admires a martyr, but nobody wants to be one. We like to talk about how great they are, but there is something that we come to know in our practice through the mastery that is available to us, and that mastery is where our true joy comes from. It's where our true confidence comes from. I want to read a statement from the Dalai Lama. And the question was asked to him, isn't it also necessary to practice meditation to obtain mental peace? The Dalai Lama said, my experience is that it is obtained mainly through reasoning. Meditation does not help much. The main cure is to realize how harmful, how negative anger or fear or whatever is. And once you realize this very clearly, very convincingly, how negative it is, that realization itself has the power to reduce anger. Now, as soon as I started reading, if I had stopped at the first sentence, I beg to disagree with you. When he said, my experience is that mental peace is obtained mainly through reasoning. Meditation does not help much. So that's because I'm maybe a meditation junkie. I like it, and because I like it, it helps, But I understand his point about reasoning. That's the Buddha placed it how to list. He invited us to investigate and to encourage, to use reasoning. But then he said, you're not going to be able to get this by mere reasoning alone. So it's like if I want to bake a cake, I got to have more than just flour. I have to have more than just flour and sugar. I have to have, whatever it takes to make cakes. I know it takes more than flour and sugar. I know that because I had a bakery, when I had our program for our issues. And one time, the real baker didn't show up, but we still had to bake that bread and get it out to the stores. And so the kids were looking at me and I was looking at them. We were trying to figure out what's going to happen here today. And so, you can't just call the grocery chain and say, the baker didn't show up. And so I said, okay, so I can do it. Pull out the instructions. And they got the instructions, and I read, got it. So I just had them. We have big vats, 120 quarts. So if you make a mistake, it's not a little mistake; it's a huge mistake. And so we're just mixing everything in according to the ingredient list. And then when I get to the ingredient list, I get to the instructions. Now I'm thinking, how difficult is it? You need sugar, you need butter, you need, and I put all of that in there. Why do I need instructions on how to pour things in? So I didn't pay any attention to them. I just made sure I got the ingredients right. That's the thing, right? What happened is I didn't know that. What do you call that stuff that makes the stuff rise? Yeah. I didn't know that the yeast had to be put in water that was, I think it was 110 degrees and set aside for 3 minutes until it does something so that it's ready to go into the batch. So I just threw the dry yeast in. And now the bread wasn't rising, it was like a lot of bread, 120 loaves. And so I was thinking, well, they should have put that up at the top. Anyway, so what I did was I made more yeast, and I put this in boiled water, and I put that yeast in, and I put that in, and so that kind of heat kind of made the other yeast also activate. So we had about 60 additional loaves. But you know, the point that I'm trying to make is it's not just having the instructions, you know, it's not just knowing the ingredients, you know, but there is a whole process and a whole attentiveness that needs to be invited to our practice. And so the Buddha talks about this in one sutta, and he talks about that in another, because at one time, this mind was in front of him, and he spoke to that one according to what they needed to hear. And another time, this one. Now it's filtered down to us into chapters and verses and books, but it wasn't like that when it was delivered. It was a mind, wrapping mind and speaking into the, and then we look at it and say, oh yeah, that could go for me too. I need that bit of information. And so keep that in mind when we're studying, even when we're doing a systematic study. Some of the Buddhist disciples only saw him one time. They may have gotten a 5 minute, may have had a 5 minute conversation. That had to last them a lifetime. You know, now, how's that going to work for you? I mean, you have to really, you have to be able to follow enough of the instruction until it points you to your own inner brightness, to your own luminosity, to your own Buddha nature. The Buddha said, I wouldn't even bother with you all about this if you didn't have that Buddha nature under there somewhere. He said, I say to you because the same said, otherwise there'd be no way for you to get this if you didn't possess the capacity, if the Buddha nature wasn't there. So if you could think in terms of us peeling away layers, like the layers of an onion, it's something like that more than something like this, screwing off and dumping something into your head. You got it? You with me? So here's the first thing. That's why I sing that song, that I'm more than able to accomplish what concerns me today. I say that to myself when I'm not feeling able to accomplish. You know, I arouse my courage. I arouse my faith in the awakened quality of the mind that is there resident somewhere. Sometimes I can't find it, but I believe that it's there. The reason I believe that it's there is because sometimes, you know, something comes to you. Nobody told you. It says, the thought came to me. I would read what the Buddha said, you know, I was touching, and it occurred to me. I'm like, yeah, Buddha, like me too. It occurred to me. Like, this, where did it come from? It occurred to me. And so before things that I may have ascribed to some other power, because I didn't know how it came about, you know. I felt like some information, some enablement rising up, you know, and we had a language for it. You know, like, out of our bellies flow rivers of living water that empowered me to do. But I'm like, but by what means does this really happen? So the Buddha helped me to understand by what means this happening. He helped me to understand that Pannavati is like the wave where there is really just the ocean. And when that wave top falls back down, when it's no longer there because of the conditions that bring about this particular life, like the motion of the ocean, the gravity, the wind that causes this bit of water to peak, you know, to know that I am the ocean. So we might think we're like sitting here, or I think I'm sitting here in this pillow, but actually I'm everywhere. And so I do. But not the little Pannavati, not the egocentric Pannavati, not the one who's so aware of this little self. And so I want to encourage you to have a vaster vision over the next couple of days of who and what you really are, so that you can be an effectual fervent presence in the world. Now, our talk this weekend is going to be, I was a Baptist preacher, so it was all night, it was all right. So that's why I have to have a clock. But that's true. That's the first thing I learned being Buddhist, because I just have to say it. I've had a Sangha now for 16 years, and my Sangha is still all white. And I came from a space where we don't wear watches and didn't pay that much attention to time. We just enjoyed ourselves until we fell out of exhaustion. Overly so happy and dancing and singing and praise and worship until we just fell. And then when it was over, we go home. But they let me know right away. No, we stay on time. So it's something like that. So I'm trying to respect that for you, so you can keep happy minds. So we're going to be talking about taking our CCs. Our CCs is the combination of conscience and compassion. And we're always saying, particularly in a time like this, how we need to arouse compassion for the world. And we're trying to do all of these things to arouse compassion. I looked at this, but actually time doesn't, I don't really relate to it. Can you tell me what time I need to... they're just numbers.
We need to go to bed at 10:30.
Okay, got it.
Good evening. I'm Phil DuPont. I also go by Flip. I'm honored to be part of this event tonight, and I'm also nervous. This is the first time I will be leading a meditation on a Tuesday night, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to lead my first meditation after 20 minutes of Pannavati. So I did want to add, Pannavati mentioned the kids who were baking bread. Those kids were orphans and street kids that she took off the street and housed and taught them a skill, which was making bread. And the bread ended up being sold regionally in, I think, Western North Carolina. So that's just my 2 cents worth there. So I do want to thank the GTC for including me in this kind of offering tonight and just being able to offer something to the Sangha. I'd also like to mention my teacher of 5 years, Ruth King, who shared her the encouragement that she was given before the first time she taught, which was, don't mess it up. So I'm going to have a seat here. I brought this bell back from Nepal after much harrowing negotiations. So I'll start with the bell. I'm going to offer a compassion meditation because Pannavati was a very compassionate person. Most of her deeds were selfless, and she was always thinking of other people. So let's start with a comfortable position. Having your back being comfortable and upright. Take 3 deep breaths, using the exhale to settle more deeply down into the body. Inhale into the belly. Exhale. Inhale into the belly. And exhale. Inhale deeply into the belly. And exhale. And now also consider some ways that you're grateful for your circumstances, even if it's just being here tonight, being part of this Sangha, this meeting. You might feel some gratitude for having witnessed Pannavati. Just a note of gratitude to gladden the mind. And now dropping your focus down from your mind into the chest and the heart, into the feeling body. You could take another deep inhale to drop into the body. And as you're dropping into the body, bring to mind a person who you know to be suffering. Perhaps not the person who's suffering the most who you're aware of, but bring to mind a person who's suffering. And if you have a compassion practice, you could offer that person compassion, or you could use these phrases. May you live at ease and be free from suffering. May your heart be open, balanced, and peaceful. May your heart be open to my compassion for you. And noticing how your own heart feels as you express compassion towards this person. And now we'll bring compassion to ourselves. It can be very challenging to do so, but it is very important. May I live at ease and be free from suffering. May my heart be open, balanced, and peaceful. May my heart be open to my own compassion. And noticing the compassion for yourself, which enables you to then express compassion to others. And now extending capacity to the group who we're with here this evening and online. May you live at ease and be free from suffering. May all of your hearts be open, balanced, and peaceful. May all of your hearts be open to my compassion for you. And now extending compassion into the community in which we live, community in which you live. Extending compassion, allowing it to radiate away from yourself into the community where we know there's suffering. May the community live at ease and be free from suffering. May the heart of the community be open, balanced, and peaceful. May the heart of our community be open to my compassion for it. And now extending compassion beyond our community to the region in which we live, beyond the region into our country, beyond the country into the world, and including the world of all sentient beings, and especially beings who are victims of war, victims of other afflictions. Send compassion all around the world. And now releasing any efforts to send compassion and just allowing yourself to rest. Noticing any spaciousness that arises with the resting. Noticing your breath, breathing your body. Noticing any residue of compassion and well-being. This can be cultivated and taken into the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. So Matt, Matt is our marvelous musician in the Sangha, and he's going to lead us in the chant and the song. Before we partake of cookies over here, Christine, where's Christine? Thank you so much for bringing the cookies tonight. Yeah. So we'll sing, we'll chant, we'll sing, and then we will adjourn for a bit of time together. And if there's time, maybe we'll see if we can have some reflections before we adjourn. We do need to exit pretty close to 8:30 tonight, so just keep that in mind when you're conversing at the end of the evening. All right. Let's do the chant first and then break into the singing. Yeah, I'll give you the mic.
Great job, Flip. Flip and I are in the same boat. I can play piano, I can sing, but it's kind of like a walking and chewing gum at the same time thing. So I'll ask in advance for your patience. But I think we're going to chant along with a recording first, I believe. Oh, do you have, it's like a Spotify link with Om Mani Padme Hum? If not, we can make do. Okay, thanks. This is the mantra of compassion. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Om. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Fade out now. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. So, who knows Heart of Gold? Neil Young? Yeah? Okay, I'm counting on you. So, as Dan said, Pannavati liked to dharmasize popular songs, and so, there's going to be a piano intro, and then we'll have that first verse. There'll be a few measures of piano again. We'll do that twice more for the second and third verse. And then at the end, there's an outro, which we'll do maybe 3 or 4 more times. So that's the plan. Let me just get my music out. If someone's able to figure out how to get this into the stand, that'd be great. Because I don't think this mic is live. Testing, testing. Oh, good. Thank you. It's kind of a low melody, so you might need to take it up an octave. Or down. With verse 1. Only live so I won't stay stagnant. Oh, I'm sorry. Just let me go back once. Right. 4, 3, 2, 1. I only give so I do give so. I'm just stagnant in this broken hole. Of gold, and I'm getting old. Keep me searching for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old. Here we go, second verse. Unfold. Oh, yeah. Awakening unfold. Third verse. Sing it together. Here we go for the outro. Keep me searching for a heart of gold. Trying to kind outflow. Please, please. Oh, and again. Of gold. And one more verse, or one more outro. Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much, everyone. That really helped to have you sing, so I didn't have to worry about that.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah. We have to do this more often, right, Darby? Yeah. All of us who love to sing. Yeah, I think she, in one of her talks, she says that she had a photographic memory, which allowed her to look at all those pages and just see them once, and they were here. But then she had an accident toward the end of her life several years before that, where she suffered a concussion and lost that ability. So she said, oh, I had to learn how the rest of the world operates, or most of the rest of the world operates with that. Also, she intended to become a professional musician at one point in time, so she was very gifted. Anybody else want to add anything? Well, let's eat cookies. So again, thank you, Christine, for bringing those tonight, and thank you all for being here, for your presence and your practice.